one. Okay, so about SQL backup. So we're gonna just discuss about and do the labs for SQL Server 2012 backups, methods to backup databases, types of data to be backed up, recovery models, recovery methods. It might continue with tomorrow's 2-hour class as well, as we need to understand all the theory as well as the lab. Please do keep sending those screenshots and try to send before the end of this course. Big chunk of marks are coming from those weekly labs that you're sending. So if you've missed any, please do send that. And I'm just recording that as well. So for those who are going to follow this video, do send your screenshots. Don't forget to do that. Otherwise, you're losing a lot of marks for that. So SQL Server 2012 backups, types of data to be backed up. Let's just go ahead. Methods to backup data, maintenance wizard to create maintenance plan with scheduled backups, a reference to a book here. Enterprise manager to schedule job to perform backup or to perform unscheduled backup as required. So normally what happens is that if I just start creating a diagram here. So if we have SQL servers in our organization, we try to go for full backups, differential backups, and transaction log backups. So these are very crucial, and full backups, of course, will go ahead. It takes a lot of time. They are huge in size, so that's why they take time. And full backups are normally done on weekends. So if in your organization you have a lot of SQL servers, you will be going for these backup routines, and you will have to plan your backup that way. So full backups are normally on weekends, mainly Friday night or Saturday night, and at the end of the month. So full backups are covered, and then differential comes. So full backups, of course, is taking a lot of space for the whole database. But what about the differential backups? So excuse me, differential backups are backups of modifications done during the day, and when excuse me, frog stuck, I think. So differential backups are done on daily basis, actually in a day, maybe 2 times. So backups of modifications done during daytime. Sometimes companies go for just backup, a differential backup at night, daily at night, and some companies go for 2 times or 3 times differential backup. So whatever modification was done from 10 to 2, take a differential backup. Then whatever modification done from 2 to 5, and if it's like at 24/7, the company is working and making modifications in the databases, then it could go for night times as well, separate differential backups. Well, our site students are also reading that. Okay, so backups of modifications done during daytime. So some companies do it daily, others do it 2 or 3 times according to the input of data in the SQL servers. So that's why differential backups are taken from time to time. They don't take a lot of processing and memory as well. Full backup, it takes a lot of processing and memory. So we can just say it takes a lot of processing and memory. And also take a lot of time. So differential backups do not take much memory and processing, and according to the data input, they finish backing up early. So the differential, and that's why some companies just go for 2 or 3 times, because the servers have already grown high end. So differential backups could be taken more than once in a day. So and then the transaction log backups, one of the most crucial areas. So if I just create that diagram on another one, so transaction log backups here, if you have a SQL server, so that's the same story with Exchange server as well. So if you're taking that backup, now transaction logs are written. So the transaction logs are written on the disk, and they do occupy a lot of space. And these backups actually try to remove the ones that have written or committed their data to the database. So backups remove or truncate. The term here is truncate. Could be an interesting quiz topic. So backups remove or truncate the logs that have been committed. So when we say committed, it writes or it copies its data to the database permanently, and now we do not have a use of it. So if that's the case, then transaction log backups, those which have copied their data to the database permanently, they get deleted or truncated, and the rest of the logs that are still active. So if the rest of the logs that are still in the process of writing data to database, or will be doing that, are not deleted by the backups. So when it comes to recovery, those logs are needed, especially those logs which have not yet copied its data to the database permanently, and those logs are detected by the backups themselves as well, and then they are not deleted from the SQL Server database. Of course, if they're not deleted, they're still taking up space and they have to be deleted. So the next backup then checks which logs have already copied their data inside the SQL Server databases permanently, so they could be then in the next backup they are deleted, right? So this is how the 3 backups are working. Transaction log backups are also taking not that much time, so they also are we can do those backups, we can schedule those backups. So as far as the scheduling is concerned, as we talked about it earlier, that the backups are full backups are taken on the weekend and differential on daily basis. And transaction log backups, it's up to you. We can do it manually, and we could just make them also on schedule, so they could be done daily basis as well. But differential backups actually take care of those transaction logs. So let's get going with the rest of it. So have a strategy to minimize data loss malicious use of delete, update statement, viruses, natural disaster, theft of data. So to recover lost data, so prevent loss of data, right? So there should be a strategy there that the backups are regularly being taken, and then the backups, if they are using a tape drive there, the tape drives are normally stored off-site somewhere, and if the if the data is uploaded on some remote data center, like where I was doing a job before, so that was a bank, and they were actually uploading their data to a US data center where they were so the data for the last 8 years was being backed up to some other data center, but not on the tape drives, but also on the hard drives. So to recover lost data, then we need that plan or strategy. So how do we recover that data? So first of all, we need to know if we are backing up perfectly, and then we can go for recovering the data as well. So to restore data with minimal cost and impact, of course, we have to have that strategy that when the data is required, how long does it take to get that data back? Backup regularly, of course, that's what we talked about, that we should be backing up frequently, and the timings we have discussed as well. So set database recovery model, there's a full recovery model, then there's a bulk logged recovery model, and then there's a simple recovery model. So modify database recovery model, alter database, so these are the commands that go for. So alter database goes for that T-SQL statements or queries that you put to make those backups possible. Then we're going to have that T-SQL queries as well, just to make our backups today. And so let's get going with certain more aspects of. So SQL Server allows backups to occur while users continue to work with the database. That's the same case with Exchange as well, although we in that class, when we're talking about the backup, we're going to still have to talk about the same thing, of course, but that would be different databases types. So yes, the users are and applications are using that database, and then while that is going on, we can take backup as well. But definitely that should be not the full backup, that should be our differential backup. So the databases, the data retrieval search operations should not slow down or degrade, performance should not be degraded. Backups original files, backup, so the backups backup original files and records their locations, and then captures in the backup all database activities that occur during the backup process. So all the activities are also saved, the data being input, the searches being made, everything is saved inside the backup. So this is always easy to retrieve. So who can perform backup? Members of the sysadmin fixed server role can perform backup, and our Windows account is already a sysadmin. So and members of the DB owner and DB backup operators fixed database roles. These guys can, or those who are having this privilege, then they can do a backup. Where to store backup? Hard disk file, yes, hard disks are used. Tape drives are used, a location identified by a name type, third-party software package. So there are many third-party software as well, NetBackup from Symantec, and there are many backup from Acronis as well. And then there are tape drives, if anyone has ever used tape drives before. So the banks, those who have like this very expensive infrastructure already in place, they regularly use tape drives. Tape drives do give a they do have a lot of space to offer with one tape, and that is a little cheaper than the hard disk drive that we purchase. So if the hard disk drives are SSD, they are not going to just break down so soon. Otherwise, the other drives are not that So when to backup system databases, after modifying the master database, which is saving all our records and all the database configurations, using create database, alter database, or drop statement. So executing certain stored procedures, we're going to be executing some, and I'm going to give you some or send you some statements there that we will be executing to create our backup and differential backup as well. So after modifying the MSDB database and after modifying the model database, if we are using model database for creation of or as our template database, then we can just take a backup of model database as well. Otherwise, we can just take a backup of master database from the user databases, system databases. So after when to backup user databases, after creating a database. So whenever we create a database, always it's a good practice, the best practice, that go for take a backup of that database when you're creating one at the start of it, and then you can only create a differential data backup once you have taken a full backup of a database. You cannot start taking differential backup if you haven't taken once a full backup of a database. So after creating an index or after creating a transaction, so whatever modifications we have done, then we can take a backup. After performing unlogged operations, so backup with truncate only or no log operations. So there are different maintenance operations as well that go, or when we are using select into statement, which is used for modification of SQL Server databases. So restricted activities during backup, what we should not be doing during the backup: creating or modifying database, performing auto-grow operations, creating indexes, performing non-logged options, and shrinking a database. So especially, auto-grow option, modifying database. So we're not supposed to be modifying the database when we are taking a backup of that. And the backup should be successful, and we're going to see next that in the next class how do we recover as well with some other monitoring options as well. So performing non-logged options and shrinking a database. So these tasks must not be performed when we are going for those when we're taking backups and during the backup process going on. We should not be disturbing the databases. So create a backup device. A backup file that is created before it is used for a backup is called a backup device. So we need to create a backup device. In our case, it's a folder where we're going to take a backup, right? So why create permanent backup devices? So we could reuse backup files for future backups to automate the backup. So normally we take a backup on tape drives, and here the backup device in our case is our local drive. Otherwise it's in big organization, it's a tape drive or remote. It's a cloud backup as well. In cloud they have their own infrastructure on their own data center, like Microsoft Azure cloud backup is available for SQL Server. That's now the cloud backup is in a lot and it is much cheaper, so companies are going for that as well. Let's go ahead, create a backup device. Yes, it is continued, and we can just create it by giving that transaction, giving this statement. We're going to be using this. So in C drive we're going to create a folder, and that is what we will be calling the backup device. So perform backup without backup device. Why create backup without backup device? So you have to define first that there's a backup device in order to backup. To perform one-time backup, if you don't want to, define a backup device, like where's the destination that you want to save the backup file, then you can go for to perform one-time backup. You don't have to, define a specific backup device for that. To test backup operation that you plan to automate, or how to use backup database statement, specify the media type, disk, taped or named pipe, which is still a remote location. So specify the complete path and full name. So the main thing is that we have to define a backup device if we are regularly taking a backup. So Okay, let's go ahead a little. So yes, there are types of backup methods. Full database backup, that's what we're going to do now. And differential backup, we're then going to try that as well. After that, there is a transaction log backup and file or file group backup. These are the four methods of backup for databases, for differential backup of the same database, and for the transaction logs of that same database, right? And file groups that we created before, we can take a backup of all the file groups, but when we take a backup of file groups, they are done for very large databases where you don't want to take a backup of everything. So done for very large databases. That could be an interesting quiz question. So full database backup provides a baseline, backs up original files, objects, and data. So that's what full database backup does. So backs up portions of the transaction log as well. So example is use master, and then we go for this script or SQL query statement, and that would back up this nwind back.bak, which is extension of the backup that we're going to create now. And the device, this is the device name. The D drive that shows here is the device name that we need to define there when we're taking a backup. So and then there is that full database backup options. So with init overwrites any previous backup on that file, and with no init appends the full database backup to the backup file, any previous backup left intact. So with init and with no init are very crucial options that you want to overwrite a database. Go for with init, and if you don't want to overwrite and just append or add more data without disturbing the previous data, then you go for with no init. So differential database backup, use on frequently modified databases. So if you're making a lot of modifications, then go for differential database backup. Requires a full database backup before. Of course, differential would require that you must backup at least once full database backup, and then backs up database changes only since the last full database backup. So and it saves time in both backup and restore processes as well. And that's the query statement for that. When we try to go for differential backup, so backup database northwind disk equals d : my data, and then the name of the database with the diff. If we mention that, that's going to define that backup. But the SQL query statement would be the with differential added there with the actual SQL query statement. So with the full backup and with the differential backup. So the only difference between the SQL query statements is that with the full backup there is no full written at the end of the this code, while in the differential backup there is differential specifically written. With differential is specifically written there when you're doing a differential backup. So transaction log backup, that's the third one, requires a full database backup. Of course, just like this, that differential backup, the transaction log backup also requires a full database backup. And also then backs up all the database changes from the last backup log statement. So whatever the last backup log statement was, from there it starts taking backup. So last backup log statement to the end of the current transaction log. So wherever the backup has truncated or finished backing up the transaction logs, so whichever transaction logs are left without backing up, from those till the current last transaction log. So if I go for the diagram here, that if there are transaction logs here created, a lot of transaction logs here are created. So these transaction logs, when the backup starts, the backups tries to delete those transaction logs which have already copied or saved the data to the database, but those which are still in the process or which haven't just copied the their data to the database permanently, they will still not be deleted or truncated. So transaction log backup starts the backup from here until today's new transaction log files that have been created. So it will then cover all those those active backup transaction log files, active transaction log files that are still keeping data. And these transaction log files, if you lose these during the crash of the database, if you lose these active transaction log files which have not been backed up yet, then you may not be even able to recover the database. If you lose these uncommitted transaction log files which haven't yet copied their data to the database, if somehow they're lost, you cannot recover from backup that database, because you're taking backup every day, but these files must be there, the active or remaining files which have not been backed up yet, these active transaction log files must be there. So the transaction log backup does that. So that's how you are guaranteed that you can recover a full database, lost database, by if the transaction log backup has taken the backup of active T-logs files as well, right? So that's why it's very, very crucial that you make a schedule of transaction log backups as well, and that is a third type of backup here, which we will be configuring as well when we are going for scheduling, which is very important. So backup using no truncate option. So no truncate option is saves the entire transaction log even if the database is inaccessible. So entire transaction log files, if they are saved, that's a very good idea, that if you wanted to recover a database, all types of, whether they are committed or not committed, they will all be saved somewhere, and definitely we never lose those transaction log files unless we are sure, or we let the backup delete those transaction log files, but we don't delete them ourselves unless we are really, really sure that those transaction log files are way old and backups have been successfully running every day. So it doesn't purge the transaction log of committed transactions. So it doesn't purge the transaction log of committed transaction as well. So all transaction log files, no truncate means don't delete, right? So just take backup of all the transaction log files, and that does make that backup very big. And if you have good storage, do that. Otherwise, normally we tend to get rid of those transaction log files, because then our backup, we need storage then for our backups as well, and storage do cost when there's a lot of data to save. So no truncate option allows data to be recovered up to time of system failure. So that's very good, that when suppose the database crashed like today 9 a.m. So up till 9 a.m. whatever transactions were going on and whatever transactions were being written on the transaction log files, those transaction log files will be copied as is if you're going for backup using no truncate option. It guarantees that it copies everything, all transaction log files, and it does not delete any one of those. Although we don't need those which have already copied its data to the database. So clear the transaction log. This is what we really try to do. We don't need all transaction log file that is created in hundreds and hundreds of logs every day. It's just costing us our storage space, right? So use backup statement to clear transaction log files. Use truncate only or no log option. Can't recover changes, is not recorded changes. So these are some of the ways we can get rid of transaction log files ourselves as well, and this process also will be taking care of those transaction log files which have already committed and are of no use to us, right? So they have committed the data, so database already has that information. We don't need those. We only don't need always those transaction log files which have not committed yet and will be in the process of doing that. So we desperately would be needing those transaction log files only. So database file or file group backup, that's the last type of backup here. So use on very large databases for the file group backup. As we know about the file group, so we can put a lot of data in one file group in the same database. So we can divide the database, one database, into 4 or 10 file groups, which will be .ndf databases, and then we can just divide that data into 10 file groups, and 10 file groups would be placed on 10 hard disks, right? So we do remember from the file group lab. So if we can, if we want to take just a backup of certain file group, so then we can do that too. And definitely file group backup is used for very large databases where we do not want to take a regular backup of large databases. It's going to take a lot of processing memory and a long time. So backup the database files individually. Ensure that all database files in file group are backed up. So this means that all the .ndf files that we created, we could choose to back up only specific or the required ones. So we don't have to go for the whole database. If it's very large, we can just go for file group backup, and just portion of a database you can take a backup as well, and save time on whichever is the most important portion where you have the most critical tables, and you want to make sure that at least those tables are backed up, if not the whole database. Maybe you're taking the backup of the very large databases at the end of the month or after 15 days, but what's the guarantee that's going to stay up? Maybe you lose that database anytime. So at least the crucial areas, crucial parts of that database could be still backed up, and that's not going to take a lot of space. So there's these backup strategies that do save us our job. So we should be careful about those strategies, and we should abide by those rules and some best practices, although we then learn from our experiences how it is going on. So what we need to do here, let's just go for our lab where I've also created some hundreds of screenshots there, which I am just looking on this other computer. So let's just start taking a backup of our databases. Let's create a database and then work on that database to take a backup. So I'm just going for the screenshots here. So I'm going to be sending you that SQL files, transaction log files. Okay, let's go ahead. So first of all, let's just log into our server 2 or 3. It doesn't matter. We just need one server for today. So I'm just making sure. Okay, so I'm just logged into server 3. It's up to you wherever you go, whichever server you can use, but we're going to use just one server. SQL Server Management Studio there. And let me check if it is expired. This one, seriously, I put the key there. I'll just restart this one. Oops. What? Rearm and restart. So shut down. Okay, so on server 3, let's just log into that, and then take our let's create a new database here. So I'm just gonna go to that server 3, and let's create new database so we could just test our backups as well. And for that, On server 3, right click. So I'm just gonna put it on magnifying here. So on the databases, let's first expand the database, and wow, when I expand, there's that warning here, skipping the default started database GBDB01 because database belongs to an availability group. Okay, yeah, whatever. Okay, so here databases. So we did always on exercise last time, and before that mirroring, and before that replication. Those are all very important. I wanted to squeeze in that extra long lab or very complicated lab, which is clustering, failover clustering. Right now I'm still covering some other smaller topics. So the new database here, let's just create that. So I right click the databases and then click the new database, and then we're going for backup test DB. So we're just naming a backup test DB of the new database, and so it could be on the default location, but when we're taking backup, we're going to be creating before that new folder for that. So let's just press OK here to create that database called backup test DB, and then we go ahead. So backup test DB is created, and for now there are no tables created and there is no transaction, but let's just take backup of this database, and then from the GUI, and then go for the SQL queries in order to know how to use those databases there. I'm just trying to go for those SQL statements as well. Okay, so here let's just take a backup, and before taking a backup, let's on server 3 I'm creating a new folder in the C drive where we will be taking all the rest of the backups from GUI as well as from the transaction log. So on server 3 I'm just going to File Explorer. On server 3, going to File Explorer, going to Computer. Let's go to C drive, and we're just creating a new folder here in C drive called backup test folder. It would come up with something longer. So backup test folder inside the C drive. Everyone created that, right? So this folder, backup test folder in C drive. Let's go back. Now we know the path here, C drive and backup test folder. This is the path for our current backup. So minimize this folder if you have created that, File Explorer, and let's go back to our SQL Server Management Studio, and then right click our database here and let's go to tasks here, and then we can see here the backup options in the task. So right click your database and go to the backup tasks. Okay, so once everyone here, so click backup here, and then we have this screen open here. So backup database, backup test DB. Now there is that database name there, of course, that we can take a backup of any of the other databases as well because of this excuse me, drop down list here, but of course we need to take backup of our database. Then there is that backup type, and there is that full, differential and transaction log, and that's what we were talking about till now in the slide. So let's just go for full backup here, which normally is done on weekends, because if the database is big, of course we don't need to take it every day. So copy only backup is we're going to be talking later. So right now it is just a database that we want to take a backup of, but we could have taken just a portion of this database if this database was very large, and that is the file files and file group database. We're gonna see it later as well. Then there's that backup set. What is the name of that backup? It already has given that name, full database backup, for the backup test DB. We can change that too if you want. Then there is that backup set will expire. We don't have to just go for this option now or schedule it anytime, but we need to define where we want to take that backup to disk. So inside the disk, in C drive we have created that folder. So let's remove this path. Click remove, and then click add, and go to that path in the C drive where we create that folder. So let's click add here and go for those 3 dots, destinations on disk. So first I click add after removing it. So actually first I remove that, then click add, and then go for those 3 dots. Everyone there, right? So, and then of course in C drive we have on the top here created this folder, backup test folder. If it's there, just select that and press OK. Oops, sorry, we cannot press OK. So yeah, let's just go down and give this so what's the name of the database? It is backup test DB. So I'm just gonna give this path, backup test DB underscore full, but you have to give the extension as well. It could be TRN for transaction log, but it is .bak. If I just drop down this files of type, that's it. Either it's a .bak, which is backup, or it is .trn. This means when later we are going for the differential backup, the extension for the differential will also be .bak, but only for the third type of backup, which is which will be .trn. So backup test DB underscore full .bak. After putting that and giving the paths, which is also shown right above this, then we could press OK, and then press OK again. So now it is selected, and if it is selected, it should be looking like this. Backup test folder, backup test DB underscore full .bak, and then we go for options here just to check if there are any other extra options on the left side top under the general. So there is that backup to the existing media set, append to the existing backup set. Either we append it or we override it. Check media set name and backup set expiration. So so in our case, the media set is our CD drive, but it could have been a shared folder on a remote server, or it could have been that Azure backup or AWS, Amazon backup, cloud backup as well, for which we would have given path here. Normally SQL Server 2014 and the latest ones, the 2016, has the cloud backup options here available as well. So backup to a new media set and erase all existing backup sets. So definitely in a production environment, I would go for some remote media or to a tape drive if they are connected remotely in an offsite, or in another branch through VPN. The backup would have been going, or locally first backed up and then the tape drive would be sent offsite. So here, reliability, verify backup when finished. So let's click that, verify backup when finished. This, if it was a huge backup, we are risking a lot of time here. Like if you were on time, I mean, like, there are sometimes backups scheduled one after other, one after other, one after other. So if you're clicking verify, the first backup, first it will finish. Maybe it is 80 gigabyte of database that is taking backup. Then verification takes extra long time, much longer time. So we have to be careful. This is not, it's your decision, it's your judgment and your experience. What do you want? If you don't have an backup right after this backup, which is the second backup, will be waiting for the first backup to finish. So if it is not the case, then we click verify. So in our case now, we just understand why it is there and when we should use it. So click that verify backup and let's see if it goes ahead and verify. We don't have anything inside the database, so it's gonna finish quickly. Perform checksum before writing to media. If the data is not corrupted or not. This is thing that, if you really want to make sure that the data is good, which is a good idea, but it also does take time. And if there is an error, you lost. Then you have to. Backups normally are done at night, so you then have to be there. If you're on call, you should remotely connect and check what is the checksum error, where is the data corrupt. Maybe some application has put a data, and it's a huge database. So this could be a lot of troubleshooting in your part. Or you could be actually talking to that application owner, maybe some web application or some hospital application or banking application whose database is there. And if you put that, it could be database related data corruption, or it could be anything else. So normally, administrators don't do that, but if it's a critical database, always go for it. For critical databases, yes, we do, but not for like all databases. It could stop for anything that is not that critical. And if the backup stops, your transaction log files are still there filling up your space. So if that space is filled up, your database is actually down, right? Then you have a bigger problem. So that's why you don't want the backup to stop or fail, right? So otherwise the whole application cannot write. All users will be disconnected if your drive is full. So all these areas are there, but we need to know, if this is important or not. You can see that transaction log is grayed out here, but we haven't. When we select the third type of backup, then we're going to go for transaction log files and then try to know what are the options there. This is the we can say job saver as well, that you should take transaction log file backups as well. It just takes up backup of all the transaction log files, or those which are at least not committed. So truncate the transaction log means, well, when it comes, we're going to talk about that. And if you want to compress that, so set backup compression. And there are some top choices here as well. Use the default server setting, compress backup, do not compress backup. So we can just go for default server setting as well. It does, about database admins, DBAs, they look for a lot of storage. So you're fighting with storage. And if it's a large company, storage guys are different, right? You're not owning those storage. So you have to talk and fight with those storage guys. Hey, I need more disk space. I need more disk space. So sometimes they say always get approval from the director and then we're going to give you space. It takes a lot of time. So sometimes you want to do compression there. But at the same time, when you're compressing, so you need a lot of processing and memory that will first compress the data and then it will send. Although the space will be less, but the server processing will be more required. This means the backup process itself will be slower, right? So that's why compressing in some examples it is good. In some examples it's bad. It's your judgment. You should just know when to take which decision. That's up to you, right? We just need to be knowledgeable about that. So press OK here for default settings, which is, so when you press OK, the backup of database, backup test DB completed successfully, right? So everyone sees that, right? Well, that was a simple backup here. And if we want to check the SQL transact SQL query as well, so I'm just gonna quickly put that there as well, so we could. Okay guys, so I'm just we have done this, we have run this query statement, and then this happened, this successfully created the database with the T-SQL query, and then we went for the database folder here just to check that our first database was created with the GUI graphical interface, and the second has been created with the T-SQL. We did the same task. So now I'm just going to resuming. So you got that how to create a table query here, and I'm just going to paste it here so we could try to create that modification and then take that differential backup. So I'm just going to right click here and paste, so all the table now shows up here. If I properly just ignore the last line, it's just a form link, just remove this last line. Okay, there's the table that we did use before as well. we're still, so this table is, if you copy that, of course, first we have to create the table, then we can just select if we wanted to see if the table is created, and then we can just select the third one. That will just enter all the data inside. We create that table ourselves. So okay, make sure before running this create table, make sure on the left side that you're inside this database, that database is selected. If you're not there, just go for use the database and name and go. Otherwise, let's just create a table now. If everyone has copied that, so I'm selecting the whole create table query first and pressing F5. So yes, successful. It creates a table. Then we can just go for select star from employee, right? And F5. So it shows yes, the table has been created. Now let's just add those values there. Oops. Okay. So select all values and press F5. Yes, they're okay. I hope everyone is able to do that, right? So, and once this is done, we can just do the select star from employee again, just to check if the values are added. Yes, the values are added, and we can just remember that these are the values added because we're going to run this table again on top of it, and it's going to append or add more values. So that would we would need for the differential backup. Now we have made those changes. If I go to the left side of the table or the database or left side area, Object Explorer, and refresh here like this, now if I expand the tables here, yes, make sure that employee table has been created and columns have been created for that employee table, right? So if that is the case, now we have the modification that the differential backup can back up actually. So now let's just go for the differential backup here. We can do the differential backup from the GUI as well as from the T-SQL or from SQL query. So now I'm just gonna, let's just do the both. First of all, we have made that modification. So I'll right click that and right click the same database here and go for tasks and go for backup. I hope everyone's there, right? So go for tasks, go for backup here, click backup, and now we're just at the same page as before, but this time we're gonna just go for differential backup. So if we choose the differential backup, it chooses the name for us automatically here down, and we're not scheduling it. And the path is already backup test folder, and it is written there, but we don't want that destination path with this. So we're just going to click remove here. So first all we did on this page, just selected the differential, and we are just defining the path there, right? So I'm just clicking remove for the .bak for the full backup, and I'm again defining that add and going to the 3 dots there and above. Then we are going for backup test folder here, pressing not OK. Seriously, I just go for that press OK. Okay, so here of course we have to give that path here. Now backup test db, again backup test db, and underscore diff dot bak. So underscore diff dot bak, if we put that there, so I've selected the path here, and then I'm just putting the file name here, right? And well, the path has to be the same, so we could compare the size of the differential backup and the full backup, right? So everyone got it, right? Okay, so let's just press OK and accept that path here, destination on the disk. Or if it was a backup device here, we could have defined here before, is it a tape drive or some remote drive or the cloud backup. So we could have defined here, but it's grayed out because we didn't define it in another place. So let's press OK here. Now the diff backup is there. If I want to go for options here, again. So I could go for verify backup here as well. If it was a large database, again the same precautions apply, that hey, be careful, if there is another backup scheduled, that backup could get disrupted if verification takes a very long time. So anyway, this is a very small backup, that's why I'm putting that there, but we must know what to do, what not to do in what situation, right? So we did discuss the rest of it, so let's just press OK here. So it's going to take successfully the differential backup like this. So once we take the differential backup, now we did make that difference here, or we created that modification. So after pressing OK for that differential backup, so we just did the verify step, and then we went for pressing OK there for the differential backup. Once we do the differential backup, now if we go back to that file explorer, so diff file is there, and you can see the file size is smaller. Of course, that's the only change we did in the differential backup, right? So the full backup, 2 megabyte, T-SQL full backup, 2 megabyte, 2.4, 2.3, but 1.4 or 1.4 megabyte is differential. So differentials, of course, are always small, and the full backups are always actually huge. They are always like 20 GB, 30 GB, 50 GB, 80 GB, and differential backups are like maybe 2 GB, 3 GB. Today's modifications were that much, so it's always a big difference between the two. But we get to know, okay, today's modifications or differences were saved properly there. So this is that from the graphical interface we are going for differential backup. Then we can go for that T-SQL version of the differential as well. But before that, so I'm just going to minimize that, and we can go for this option here for making some more modifications, because we need to take the second differential backup from the T-SQL, so we could know the both types, the command wise and okay. So if I select the same table again, right, if I just append those changes, so already if I go down here, the table is just showing 5 entries here, 5 rows here, but I've selected that same exact table. So maybe it overwrites, maybe it appends only, right? So if I just execute this, it again says it has made some changes. And if I again try to check what happened to my table, then I can select the star from employee and execute. Now you have those double entries here. So those 5, but some data has increased now, and modification is again done, although it is just duplicate data now. If we had that duplicate data query, if we run against this table, it's going to just remove, and if we want to, we can remove that duplicate data anytime we want, right? Or in the maintenance task, we can put that, hey, any duplicate data, remove it. So we can remove it anytime. But we just made another modification here, so I'm just going to go quickly here just to check what is the difference between that SQL and differential, because that's something you're doing every week in your job. And if you miss any 1 day of differential data, or any one weekend or end of the month of full backup, you're in big trouble, right? So, and any missing backup may result in transaction logs filling up, and the disk ultimately filling up, and the whole database going down. So that's why it is very crucial that you understand that how you can go for differential, how you can go for the full backups. So the differential statement, I'm just going to put that there, and you're going to see that there is not much difference other than the actual addition of the word with differential. Other than that, everything is simple. But where do we put that? I'm just going to write it down here. So if you go up here to the previous full backup query, if we see that, everyone sees that, right? So we can select the whole thing again, like this, select the whole thing. This was for full backup, but we're going to make it make a little small changes to make it a differential backup, right? So once you select the whole thing here for the full backup T-SQL query, so I'm just gonna paste it here now. Now this is, I'm just gonna call it differential, of course. It's still the same database, it's still the same path, except for that in the full, instead of the full, I'm just going to go for diff here, and that's a T-SQL version of that. And with name, now it is a bit tricky here. So with name, we can put here differential, like this. And it underlines that, the zigzag thing. This means don't go this way. So we can put here with differential. Now the underline is the go. It says again don't go for that. So you know what happens here, we can just get rid of that name and we can just put it in the GUI directly. If I just get rid of this line here, everyone sees that, right? This line here, now everything goes okay. So in some knowledge base forums and Microsoft TechNet forums, I'm talking about the official Microsoft forums, they used it this way excuse me, and then they use some longer steps to just give the name. We can just give the name in GUI as well, instead of going for those long steps to just give the name there, right? But we need to check the size as well. We did some extra, we made some duplicate entries there in the table. The data is a little more than before. So now we can just select the whole thing and F5 it. So it then again says that it has made those changes there. But if we, so it is successful, but what is the data now? Of course, it's just few kilobytes more, or you know. So I'm just going to go back to that file explorer here. Yes, there's that diff, and it is not even few kilobytes. Okay, that was, yeah, very small amount. We could have put something huge. So it's T-SQL as well. It's not even few kilobytes, or not even bytes more. But anyway, this is how the T-SQL also works with the differential. But yeah, we can, if you want to overwrite, so we will lose the previous one. So okay, here, yes, the differential is created and it is the same size, of course, not much of a difference we created here. But this is how the differential backup. But if I go for so we're gonna try to change those areas again. The third type of backup is that transaction log backup, and transaction log we can do just by the graphical interface. And let's just go for that. So first of all, we can just go for backup test DB again. And transaction log is one of the, all three backups are job savers, but transaction log is one of those that you would be, as a precaution, taking those other than the, scheduled backups as well. All those scheduled backups are good enough. But transaction log is something that those logs would save our life, not life, the job. So I'm just going to go for the backup third time now, because I want to use the third type of backup here. So again, right click and go for that backup type, and this time we're going for the third one, transaction log here. Copy only backup is still option there, and description, the name is already given. We could give the description. Maybe this is hosting the accounts department application, or this is hosting some other department. So we could just put it any description. But let's just go for that path again. So click remove for the differential path here, and click add again. It's the same exercise, but this is another type of backup, and some other types of options are enabled here. So I'm just going to go up here and backup test folder, and then now the name is different, right? So well, the extension, sorry, not the name. The name is different, but the extension is also different. So backup test db underscore logs, and then .trn. So this would be the TRN backup, or transaction log backup. Oops. So backup test db underscore logs .trn, right? So once this is put there, let's just press OK and go ahead, right? So backup test db, and it's the same path here. Backup test db underscore logs .trn. Everyone there, right? Okay, let's get going. Press OK. So yes, let's just. Oh, okay. Not. Did I say oh, okay? So I will go for the options. I hope nobody pressed OK. So I'll just go for the options. Even if you press OK, it's okay. It doesn't matter. If you didn't press verify, it doesn't matter right now. We just need to know why we would do that, right? But here. Now this option, which was grayed out for the previous two backups, is now enabled here. If I go to options here for the transaction log backups, and I go for truncate the transaction log or back up the tail of the log and leave the database in the restoring state. So it's going, so truncate the transaction log just means that yes, whichever transaction logs have committed to database their or copied their data to the database permanently, just delete them, get rid of those transaction logs. And this is what we really want to do, that you know, those transaction logs are just filling up our hard disk space, and ultimately if we don't check it, it's going to get the whole database down. And then that back up the tail of the log is just you know, if any of the transaction logs which have not committed yet, take a backup of those as well. So in case you know, if you're doing that this type of backup every day as well, so whichever transaction log files haven't copied their data will be saved as well. This is also a very good backup plan of yours, or your plan B, in case your database, which you may have lost because of the crash at any time. So you would need these logs desperately. If you could not access these active logs which have not yet committed, those so after the crash, if the hard disk is not even accessible, so then you don't have the last up to the last second logs, right, which were yet to have copied their data to the database. So those logs are still there, and those logs are very crucial to restore or recover that database. So that's why we can just go for the second one, just for our plan B, that yes, I took that precaution every week, and wow, if you're that thorough, wow, I salute you. So truncate the transaction log. This is the other third type of backup here. We could compress that as well if we wanted, but we must know what is it for, and I'll just go for that verify backup when finished, because it's a very small backup, so it doesn't take much time here. So let's just go ahead and press OK here, and the transaction log files are also backed up. But what is the size it's taking, and also how you know, how much is it of a difference it is showing here. So I'm also going for that SQL. Okay, so I'm just trying to get that T-SQL statement for that as well. It should be very small as well. I didn't take it yet. So I'm just going to check that File Explorer here, and there's that TRN, which is just 213 KB. It's just tiny. Transaction logs, in our case it's tiny, but in a production environment they're also big in size, but not as big as, you know, the databases or differential. But all the logs, if you're backing them up, you're really going good. I mean, you're a careful administrator then. if you're doing that as well. Okay, so so this was just a manual way of doing stuff here, but if we go for that schedule, if we want to create a schedule there, then it is we have to work for schedule. We cannot just take all those backup manually every day. So how do we schedule those backups, and where do we put that? Weekend will be full backup, and daily will be differential backup, and maybe every 2-3 days that transaction log backup as well. So there is that other area in the SQL management where you can go for that as well. Guys, I was just trying to get now. That's gonna take. Okay, so here, let's go for management. Now, inside the SQL Management Studio, if you see under that same root, the management area, right? So expand the management folder, and then do you see that maintenance plans there? So under the management folder and then maintenance plans. So when we right click the maintenance plan, there is that new maintenance plan and maintenance plan wizard we can see, right? So if we see that, then we can just try to make that SQL Server scheduling there. So from within that SQL management, you can do that as well. From the backup software, you can also do that, which are always transaction log aware backup software, third-party backup software. But let's just go for maintenance plan and then go for maintenance plan wizard. Everyone sees that, right? Okay, so then SQL Server maintenance plan wizard starts here, and if we go next here on the SQL Server maintenance plan wizard, now here maintenance plan, and I could just add here backup strategy. So when we make a backup strategy here, maintenance plan, backup strategy, right? So here we can make separate schedules for each task. Like you want to have just a full full backup and differential backup as a separate task, and the transaction log backup as a third task. So we could just make that as well, and then we can go ahead, or we could go for the other type as well. But guys, let me just check my million screenshots here that I would just want to show you in one go the whole thing instead of going for a longer process here, but we will be still understanding everything here. So we can go for separate task, or so I just wanted to make sure here, because there are so many options, that's why I created a screenshot. Anyway, yeah, there it is, and you won't believe how many screenshots are there. Sorry guys, just a sec. Oh, serious? Okay, so it was still single schedule for the entire, because I wanted to go for separate, but it is longer than this one. So single schedule for the entire plan, or no schedule. So this means that in one schedule I'm telling that, hey, take full backup, take differential backup, take transaction log backup as well, at the but different times, of course. So I'm just going to go for single schedule for the entire plan, or no schedule. Then I'm going for next here. Now, what type of maintenance task you want to do? Do you want to shrink database? Do you want to reorganize index, update statistics? But we are going for backup database full, backup database differential, and backup database transaction log. So these are the three different transaction or maintenance tasks, not transaction, maintenance tasks that we want to do. If we select all three of these, let's go next. Now all these tasks, in what order you want to perform. First you want to perform full backup, or first you want to perform differential, or whichever at the last. So well, it is okay, whatever, because we're gonna actually schedule it for weekends, daily, and 2 or 3 hours if we want, every 2 or 3 hours as well. So let's go ahead a little and see how can we schedule these tasks. So next, right, all three are showing here. Now when we click next, this page opens here, and first it's asking for define backup database full task. So I'm just going to drop down menu here, and it is first of all I'm going to tell which exact database we want backed up. We could select multiple databases, but we're just sticking to our backup test DB. Now here press OK. And now at least, well, it says here databases, specific databases, and then yes, it is still a database. It's not files and groups because it's not a very large database. And then we can talk about when it is supposed to be done. So here but we can just give the schedule later as well. So we're going to do that actually, and but we still need to at least define where, which area are we supposed to take that backup. So backup databases across one or more files. If you wanted the database to be with NDF files as well, then you can do that. Create a backup file for every database. Yes, that's where it was before. Verify backup integrity for a very large database. Be careful again, it's going to take a longer time, but verifying the integrity is always also a good idea. So now I'm just giving that path for that this transaction log. So I'm just going to go, so before giving the path, guys, let's go to File Explorer here, and in the backup test folder that we have in the C drive, let's go for new and go for folder here, and then schedule, right? And then schedule. So I've just created a new folder called schedule here, right? And then I'm just gonna give that path of the schedule. So these three dots here, I'll just so these three dots here on that for full backup, three dots here, create a backup file for every database. Click C drive, backup test folder, and schedule, right? So the new folder I just created, I gave that path for the first scheduled full backup, right? So press OK here, and now it should look like this: backup test folder schedule. So next, now it is asking where do you want to save the differential backup. Now it's the same kind of drill here. If I press next, first of all, which database? Yes, backup test DB. That's what we selected for the full as well. It's the exact same task we're doing again, and again giving that same scheduled folder path for the differential backup as well. Schedule, press OK, and when we click next again, now the transaction log. Again, which database? This database, press OK, and the path, C drive, backup test folder, schedule. So do we all did that? Okay, we all did that, right? So press OK here, and the path for all three types of backups are here. Click next. All three types of backup is here. Next, and then write a report to a text file. Yes, we can have that report, or if we could, we can also have it emailed to us in a production environment. Next, and now this is the summary of what we did, right? So we can click finish. Everyone there, right? Okay, click finish. So the schedule is successful. Like we just created a schedule, but we did not like give a time there yet. So let's just press OK, close here, and quickly give the time here as well. Yeah. The default option for the default. Okay, so here, if we look at the maintenance plans here, we just want to define time and we're done, right? So maintenance plan backup strategy, if you all see that maintenance plan backup strategy, right click and modify, right? When we right click and modify, we can see that one plan here, not scheduled. We just need to schedule here and that's it. So schedule, everyone on the schedule page, right? So when we go for schedule page here, we can just say weekly, or we can just say daily, or we can just say this. We can create actually 3 plans here, for full, for differential, for the transaction log as well. We can create 3 sub plans here as well for that. How do we do that? We can make that changes later as well, but the main thing here is that this is the time that we can put here. If I click cancel first of all and go for that plan for, so this is just showing sub plan is backup database full, backup database differential, and then it's going to take backup database transaction log. So this is one plan, but we should be creating here 3 plans instead of 1 plan here, right? And we could just do that or continue that tomorrow as well, because we need to define 3 plans, and I think it's 12:38 already. Some students are about to leave, so it is gonna be a little longer now. So we can keep it to, we created that maintenance plan, but we haven't scheduled it yet, right? So we can continue tomorrow with how to schedule it and then try to recover it as well in another database. So if you are here, then click cancel. Yeah, you were saying, sorry? Yeah, cancel. So I'm just gonna cancel this because it's gonna take longer steps, and we're gonna way past the 1 o'clock. So we are leaving at maintenance plan backup strategy. We did create 3 types of backups, but we haven't scheduled them yet. So we're going to continue with scheduling, and then we're going to try to recover as well tomorrow. Okay guys, so just upload that. I'll